Cronin Toyota and Cronin Nissan are honored to partner with Proudly We Served, as well as the continued support of our local active and retired military veterans across eastern Indiana.
I'm Al Bledsoe, Veterans of Foreign War, Post 1108.
I'm Ron Chappell, Chaplain for Vietnam Veterans Chapter 777 here in the beautiful city of Richmond, and co-host here with Al. And our guest today is Brian. Let you introduce yourself.
I'm Brian Ray. I'm a Disabled Veteran Outreach Program Specialist with Work One.
All right.
Again, Brian, thanks for coming today.
No stranger.
Yeah.
No stranger.
I appreciate the invitation.
Yeah, we're happy to have you and explain what's going on in your area with employment and things like that. So why don't you kind of give us a little bit, and then we'll kind of get into talking a little bit about what you're doing.
We've got our annual Eastern Indiana Veterans Resource Fair and Hiring Fair coming up on Friday, October 25th. It's going to be from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. It's going to be held at the Tom Raper Center out at the Wayne County Fairgrounds. This is an opportunity for veterans from Eastern Indiana, Western Ohio to come in and learn about all the different resources that are available to them, and also employment opportunities that employers have open right now.
Yeah. Let's kind of retract a little bit here. Your job is with workforce development. Mm-hmm. Exactly. What is that, and what do you do there?
My role as a DVOP, I'm going to go, everybody loves the military. It's a lot easier to say, too. It's a heck of a mouthful. My job is to assist veterans overcome significant barriers to employment. Mm-hmm. Could be that they're a disabled veteran, could be they're homeless, could be they're an ex-offender. Could be a low-income individual. Could be somebody who's a recently transitioning service member. All those categories. Basically, anything they see as a barrier to them finding employment, I assist them in overcoming that barrier and get them what we term job ready, actually ready to hit the ground running, go out, talk to those employers, get those interviews. And actually go and seek that job they're looking for. Yeah. It could be somebody who's just been out of the workforce for a while. They're looking for a job. Could be somebody who's been working for a while. They're looking for that better job. It's got a little higher wage, maybe some better benefits, and then they roll from that better job into hopefully a career.
Yeah. I that would be a challenging job, I think. Especially when you talk about people with felony convictions. I would imagine that's probably the toughest one.
It can be at times. Basically, what I try to do is coach them up. What a lot of people don't realize is with these ex-offenders, if they've been in prison for 5, 6, 7 years, what I'm looking for is what did you do while you were there and incarcerated? Did you take classes? Did you work? Because especially the work part, if they worked while they were incarcerated, I can put that on the resume.
Okay.
And show that they've got a work history.
Right.
For those that maybe don't have that work history, we sit down and we work on what we call an elevator speech.
Okay.
We want them to explain to that potential employer, I made a mistake. This is what I've done to correct that mistake. I'm ready for that second chance.
That's great. And
right now, in our economy, a lot of employers are looking to give those second chances right now. They need employees.
Yes.
So, they're more willing right now than, say, 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago to give that person a second chance.
Right.
I believe it was Belden here in town. Then they started. It's not a program like what you've got, but they started a program where it's kind of a second chance program that if you're on some kind of drugs, maybe you've been picked up, or alcoholism or any of that kind of stuff, and they kind of give you that second chance. How is the success rate with that? Is it
The veterans that I've been working with, we've had some pretty good success. I've just recently, back this spring, I had a gentleman who had been incarcerated. Prior to being incarcerated, he was a stay-at-home dad.
Oh, wow.
Actually hadn't held a job since 2009. He came in, we included that stay-at-home dad on his resume. It's a job.
Better know it.
Wow.
It's a job.
That'd be tough.
Now, I've done more of that with stay-at-home moms than stay-at-home dads. But we put his stay-at-home dad, on his resume. While he was incarcerated, he worked the entire time, took classes, took tests, got certifications.
Wow.
He came out.
Amazing.
He came to visit me. He also worked with one of our partners and took some classes. He had one specific employer in mind that he wanted, to try to get that opportunity. And once we completed everything, he went. He called me on a Monday morning. He said, I'm interviewing today at this employer he wanted to work at. I said, okay. Calls me back 2 hours later and he says, I'm taking the physical and my drug test and I start tomorrow.
All right.
Wow.
So,
Yeah, that's kind of the way at the dealership. That's the kind of the way once you do that employment application, and if you pass the drug test, you've got to do that. But once that's all done, they hire pretty much right away.
Yeah.
So,
With veterans, does your program also apply to their spouses or children, or no?
with the spouses, I can get them connected with the others that work in the Work One offices.
Okay.
We've got career advisors in there that can help them. I have a very narrow group of spouses that I can work with. The veteran pretty much needs to be 100% disabled or died due to service-connected disability. But I refer all the spouses to the rest of our staff.
so what kind of? I'm interested in the disability part of it. What do you see out there as far as disabilities for a veteran? What are you seeing?
I deal with the whole gamut. I mean, it
Okay.
can be physical disabilities, it can be mental disabilities, a lot of PTSD, traumatic brain injuries. Those are some of the ones we deal with. Physical disabilities, a lot of people with back, knees, shoulders, in some cases, we can work with an employer to find accommodations for some of these veterans. It's really a case-by-case scenario. Everybody's different. Nobody's the same.
Right.
So it's just basically when I sit down that first time with them and do the interview, I try to find out everything I can about the veteran. I've got an assessment I can go through, and it's 7, 8, 9 pages long.
Oh wow, that's
And I go through, I find out about their past work history, what type of skills they have, what their home life is like. Basically just trying to uncover any barrier they may have to finding that job they want.
Right. That's awesome.
What kind of jobs do they look for? Like a disabled veteran that's got maybe PTSD, but he's kind of okay with that. What do you look for in that?
That one, it's basically, I'll go back to what I just went over in uncovering what their skill set is.
Okay.
Is we've got to take that skill set that they have and what their disability is and sit down and talk about, okay, these are the type of jobs you might be able to do or you're qualified to do.
Right.
Now, sometimes it may be that their past skill set and their disability won't mesh. And that's where, we may have to look at getting, folk rehab involved. They might need some training, might need to go to school for those type veterans. Most of the veterans that I've been seeing still gravitate mostly towards manufacturing. I have been seeing more and more that are starting to go into a bit of a clerical type field. I'm working with some individuals right now that I have one veteran who wants to work in call centers. We've got a couple around here. Mostly that's up around with the veterans I work up with in Muncie. Because I cover, if you take a line and draw it from Hartford City over to Portland and then go south to Rushville over to Liberty, that's the turf I cover, 9 counties.
All right.
So they call and actually have an appointment with you? Is that?
What happens is a lot of times the veterans will come into a Work One office. We have a form that they fill out. It's called a Veteran Self-Attestation Form. It's a 2-sided form. On the front page, they will show that they're actually a veteran. They will attest to that. We don't ask for their DD-214 or anything like that. We just self-attest. On the back of that form is a list of barriers to employment. And they'll check each block that applies to them. If they check a yes on both sides of that form, they get referred to me. So what happens is that career advisor or that person in the Work One office will either call me or email me and say, hey, Brian, I've got this veteran that qualifies to see you. We need to set up an appointment. Then usually what happens is I call the veteran and set up the appointment in the closest office that we have that they live to.
Wow. With the variety of skill sets that we're trained for in the military, I'm just thinking back on myself. I mean, it's somewhat antiquated now, but I was in electronics and
They had electric then?
yeah, they had electricity then. But when I got out, man, I had a lot of opportunities because of the stuff that I learned. I was in radio teletype communications, and we learned not just our job, but the other jobs that supported us as well, which kind of made us a lot more marketable. Do you find it to still be true for veterans?
Yes. That's one of the things, especially with recently transitioning service members, is we find out, okay, I know what your MOS was. Tell me what else you did. Right. Because how many times, when I was in the military, you guys were in the military, did you end up doing something outside of your MOS?
Other duties as a side.
Most of the time.
Yes, exactly. And even in myself, that was the case.
Yeah.
So I try to dig and find out, okay, give me the whole picture.
Yeah.
Tell me everything you did.
Yeah.
And then what we do is we take those military skills and try to translate them as close as we can into something that's a civilian skill.
So what would you do, 11 Bravo, infantry?
That's the tough one.
When
we're talking about anything infantry, anything artillery, those are where you really have to get down and ask them, hey, what all did you do? Because there's not a lot, unless, that infantryman wants to come out and be a police officer. Kind of translates a little bit.
Security.
But yeah, it's sometimes it takes a while. You really got to peel away the onion several layers to find what you're looking for.
Right.
Do you go with them at any time? Do you go with them? If they're a PTSD type person that maybe's got some issues, but most of the time, like I say, he's okay. But do you go with him and introduce him to the employer? Do you spend that much time with him?
No, what happens is when we get that veteran job ready, they're ready to, hit the ground running, talk to those employers, is I have a counterpart. He's a local veteran employment representative. In our region, his name's Jared Lanik, okay? The leaver's job is to go out and promote that client to employers, okay? our goal is to get their foot in the door.
Yeah.
Maybe, get that interview set up, but we do not go with them. Once we get them to that point where they have an interview, it's their responsibility to seal the deal.
Okay.
Hopefully, we have done everything to prepare them, but they've got to go and do that interview and seal the deal with that employer.
So does the chamber know about you? I mean, I could see you being invaluable there where businesses are struggling to get people on that. Have they invited you? Or?
That is a function for our lever to take care of.
Okay.
Is to go and talk to chambers and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm more with the veteran. I do a lot of the one-on-one stuff with the veteran. The local veteran employment representatives and our employer engagement team that he's a part of, their job is to talk to the employers and talk to Chamber of Commerce's economic development groups, all that stuff.
Right. So if a company, business person is looking for people and maybe they have in mind that to seek out a veteran, would they just go to workforce development and tell them?
They can go to the Work One offices. The Work One offices will refer them to either the lever or the employer engagement team so that they can make contact with that employer.
Okay. All right. All right. So let's talk about this event. We kind of started off on it, but I wanted folks to know what you do and all that kind of stuff. So this event is to get veterans connected with companies and that are actually hiring right now.
What this started out as is this will be the 6th annual resource fair and hiring event that we've had here at the fairgrounds. About 7 years ago, the VA in Dayton did their last stand down here in Richmond. And they just decided that the turnout wasn't high enough, they weren't going to do it anymore. So I went to, at the time, our office, the Richmond Work One office here was managed by Bob Hayes. And I went to Bob and I said, we need to do something. There's a lot of resources out there that veterans aren't aware of. There's a lot of employers they're not aware of. Let's try to do something. And I'm very thankful to Bob. He gave me the ball and said, Brian, run with it. And unfortunately, we lost Bob back in the spring. And but he is really the person who, gave me the push and said, go for it. So the first 3 years, we held this event in the Coleman Center. And the first year we had about 40 vendors between employers and resource providers. The last 2 years we've had almost or right at 100 vendors. And we pretty much fill up the Raper Center.
Yeah, it's full.
And basically it's like the resources we tried to bring out are the VA, your county service officers. We do some health screenings out there. They can get their blood pressure checked. They can get their flu shots. They can get their sugar checked. Any type of governmental resources we can get in there. Mental health services, which is big right now. Educational information. I mean, we'll have Ivy Tech, IU East, Indiana Wesleyan, Indiana State's been there in the past. Trine University, Ancilla, just, basically anybody who has educational opportunities, we want them there. The employment opportunities, the last 2 years we've had between 30 and 40 employers. The only thing we ask of the employers is if you're going to come, please have job openings you're trying to fill.
Yeah.
And we've never had anybody, disagree with that statement.
That's good.
We'll have lunch for the first 300 veterans that come. Golden Corral has graciously done that every year since we started.
I'll be there.
I know.
Well,
That's the clincher for Ron every year. I'm getting free lunch.
I'll be there.
I would need to mention that, of course, the Tom Raper Center is not free, but First Bank Richmond, the last 2 years has taken on,
Yeah.
covering that cost for us. And I also need to mention 3 years ago, we brought on Whitewater Broadcasting as our media partner. And Stephen Clark, who couldn't be here with me today, has been very instrumental in lining up a lot of things for this event. And I have to, thank him. He's been a blessing.
Yeah.
He's the one who worked out lining up, the building sponsor, the meal sponsor. In the past, we've kind of had conflicting events at the fairgrounds where they've had something going on in the Coleman Center, plus you got something going on in the Raper Center. So he's been able to go out and work with the Richmond Parks Department to get tables. So we had plenty of tables in the Raper Center. The media blitz they put on in the 2 weeks before the event is unreal. The number of commercials they play. They'll come out and broadcast live at the event.
Oh, wow.
So what we're hoping, especially with that partnership, is, and anybody who's watching, if you've got veterans that you know of that anywhere they live in eastern Indiana, western Ohio, let them know about this event. Tell them to come out and check it out. I can almost guarantee there's going to be at least one thing there they didn't know about. It's just, we're bringing all these resources, all these employers into one spot to where the veteran does not have to go to Dayton.
15 different places.
They don't have to go to Cincinnati, Muncie, Indianapolis. It's all right here on that one day. They may not get their issue solved that day, but they're going to know where to go now.
Yeah.
They're going to know who to call. It's all about networking.
Right.
The networking opportunity, and it's not just for the veterans get a lot out of this event. The vendors get a lot out of it.
I was wondering about that. Yeah.
What we do, the event runs from 10 to 2. So what we do is we start setting up at 8:30 in the morning. From 8:30 to 9:45 is setup time and networking time. So they can talk with other vendors and maybe learn something, about another vendor that, hey, I can't fix or help this veteran. I can refer them out.
Yeah, that's good.
There.
Yeah.
How big is our need here in Wayne County? Do you have it down to that, or you're seeing all these people, but do you know what, like Wayne County, how are we?
I will say that compared to in the past, my workload is not as big as it was 5, 6, 7 years ago. And that it moves with the unemployment rate.
Sure.
Where my workload has increased, though, is in the past I only had Wayne County, Randolph County, and Union County that I covered.
Yeah.
Well, now I have 9 counties to cover. The workload is a lot higher.
Yeah. And I think a lot of that may be too. A lot of our younger veterans, Gulf War, Iraq, Iran, those guys, probably don't know about this resource.
The younger ones,
we're seeing that in our organizations like VFW and VBA. And
we get told all the time that the young vet don't participate in stuff because he simply don't know.
Yeah.
And that's just, of course, for me, that's hard to believe. But at the same time, going back when I was that age, there wasn't much help out there.
Well, when you guys got out of the military, I think a lot more people came home. When I served, and I was in the Desert Storm area, a lot of us came home, but I don't think as many as when you guys served. And I'm seeing more and more now, the younger veterans we have don't come home where they're originally from.
Wow.
And some of that has to do with, especially if they're retiring, is tax breaks and things like that are a lot nicer some other places.
Sure.
Yeah.
And thankfully, Indiana's changing that. So hopefully some more of those people will come home.
Yeah.
Didn't realize that.
Yeah. I saw Brad and they're talking. I saw that the issue where they were working on the taxes. to cut them for veterans?
Yeah, now you won't
minimum.
you won't have to pay taxes on your military retirement income
Yeah,
in
yeah.
Indiana. That was in the most recent.
That's a big deal.
Yes, it's huge.
That's a huge deal.
Yeah. All right. So, let's talk. Where are you physically located? People need to. Well, okay.
That's a tricky question, Ron.
Where is
He's
your
all over.
major point of
Yes,
contact desk?
yes,
located? Where's that?
My actual desk is here in Richmond. But like on Mondays, I'm usually in Muncie. Fridays, I'm at the Journey Home in Winchester. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I can be anywhere. But
Okay.
the key is this thing right here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's how you get a hold of me.
Okay.
That's my office
All
phone.
right. All right. And that number is on this flyer here.
Yeah.
And I think they posted it on the
Yeah. And
set there.
anybody who's interested in setting up a table, please reach out.
Oh, yeah.
I'd love to see us bust that 100 vendor mark again this year.
Sure.
But any employers, any resource providers, my contact information's on the screen. Please just reach out.
Wow.
Let's go through this again, date and
Real
time
quick.
and all that. Yeah, real quick.
Yeah. So it's October 25th, Veterans Resource Fair and Hiring Event. So
It's at Tom Raper Center.
Tom Reaper Center in Richmond, and that's on
10 to
Salisbury
10 to
Road.
2, and the opening ceremonies at 10 o'clock.
Okay.
We'll have the national anthem, and this year, Dennis Weimer, the new director of the Indiana Department of Veteran Affairs, will be speaking during the opening ceremony.
Okay, got one important question. What time do we eat?
Usually we start eating at 11, right?
Okay. Just thought I'd
Okay.
check. Okay.
Okay, so we got to
All
shut
right.
it
Thanks,
down.
Brian. We really appreciate you
We
coming.
appreciate you
Brian.
coming in
Yeah,
today. and
yeah.
Hopefully we'll get the word out and get some of these brochures out where they need to go. And
Yeah. Can
we'll get
email
on
it.
with it. So.
Yeah. In fact, if you could email this to me, I can get it.
Will do.
Okay. All right. All right. Hey, folks, thank you so much for watching Proudly We Served, and we hope you've heard something that's going to help you. Get that information out to veterans, all right? If you know any veterans, you need to get it out to them and let them know of the resource fair that's coming to our area. All right. All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thanks
Thank
for
you, Brian.
watching.
We'll see you, folks.
Cronin Toyota and Cronin Nissan are honored to partner with Proudly We Served, as well as the continued support of our local active and retired military veterans across eastern Indiana.